phrase. Please read.
Janma.
Harshit, do we have any explanation to offer? Jaydeep, can we explain? Second time these boys have logged in and vanished.
Hello guys, इस वीडियो
Alright. Anyone else who wants to offer, or shall I quickly go through?
Ma'am, the UN's definition is good enough, but this seminal report says that meeting the basic needs of all and extending to all the opportunity to satisfy their aspirations for a better life. Ma'am, doesn't this mean exploiting more and more resources other than preserving our resources?
क्या हो तो यहाँ वन डैश क्योंकि वन डैश हो। हेलो गाइस, इस वीडियो में देखेंगे क्वेश्चन
No,
जो कि
why? एक second, which aspect?
Ma'am, here in the second para, the seminal report, Our Common Future, in its second line, it says that sustainable development is defined by meeting the basic needs of all and extending to all the opportunity to satisfy their aspirations for a better life. So अगर हमें सबको ही अच्छी लाइफ देनी है, बेटर लाइफ देनी है, तो उसके लिए तो हमें और ज्यादा रिसोर्सेज को यूज करना पड़ेगा ना.
Okay, let's think here. One thing, the common future was given by the publication of Our Common Future was given by Brundtland Commission, which is the second point. Now, when Brundtland Commission talks about sustainability, they look at both present and future. So the all that you're referring to is not just the present. That is why I was saying that first and second they go hand in hand. UN established the Brundtland Commission back in 87, and Brundtland Commission published a report. I think it's a book, it's a good book by Our Common Future. So when Brundtland Commission is talking about sustainability, at no point will they just acknowledge present, they'll also talk future generations. So that all covers both of them. Now for that to happen, you will have to ensure that not everyone currently is using all the resources. Is
Got
it
it,
making
ma'am.
sense?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Talking about, they've also mentioned some ways by which the present generation can ensure sustainability. So you're looking at these points here. I think there were more. Acha, ye. Conservation of resources. You're talking about preservation of resources. Preservation and conservation में फर्क क्या होगा वैसे? What is the difference between preservation and conservation? Tiny difference. Anji.
Aren't they synonyms like conservation and preservation?
Not generally we end up using them interchangeably. When we'll talk about sustainability, they'll have a slight difference because conservation is talking about using them in an efficient manner. So if I'm saying that I've just right now I've changed rooms, so I've walked in from another room and I've entered another room, I did not switch off the light there. That goes against conservation of efficient use. Preservation simply says protecting, कि अभी जब तक मत ही यूज करो तब तक अच्छा रहेगा. So conserving is making a choice about using the resources in an efficient manner, and preservation, if you see you found a new iron ore maybe. Preservation, if you do not use it at all, that is you're preserving it, you're protecting it. Conservation would talk about using it in an efficient manner so that it lasts for a long time. Both of them are in sync with sustainability. Ideally, normal day-to-day life may we end up using them interchangeably and no one will really question, but for sustainability it makes a difference when you're talking about how to go about with the resource that you have.
Fine, ma'am.
Moving further, we have these two economists who've given in their suggestions. Edward Barbier talks about how we can link sustainability with increased standard of living. So he basically argues that if you increase the standard of living of the people, if there's more education, if there's better standard of living, you're then looking at minimized wastage of resources.
चलिए तो
If I
क्वेश्चन
take you
पढ़ते हैं
back
क्या
to the
कह रहा है.
last class we spoke of environmental degradation triggered because of poverty. He's basically trying to target that. Next we have Herman Daly. He's also suggested certain ways. What exactly has he suggested? He's basically saying that your population is one aspect which needs to be controlled within the carrying capacity of the environment. I hope we're comfortable with the term carrying capacity now. Carrying capacity, वो जितना आपका planet can take. If you go beyond the carrying capacity, then you'll have issues of environmental crisis. Next, he spoke of importance of bringing in better technology that takes in less inputs and gives the desired result. तो अगर जब हम steam engine की बात करते हैं, though it was a breakthrough at that point of time, today that will not be in sync with sustainability because you're using a lot of resources, you're harming the environment for your own economic gains. Next, talking about extraction of renewable resources at the rate at which they are, or less than the rate at which they are being regenerated. Extraction of non-renewable resources should be monitored, and talking about processes that control pollution. Pollution has again different forms. We're not just talking about any one. So we're looking at air, water, land, noise, all of them taken together. Just take a minute and please read what they've said and then we proceed.
Ma'am, I didn't understand the Edward Barbier's definition of sustainable development.
Alright, Barbier's view is purely about increasing the material well-being. Material well-being को हम simple income भी बोल सकते हैं, because if you increase the income in the hands of the people, if you provide them with basic facilities of education, health, and a decent standard of living, if that is done, then unsustainable practices will be washed off. So, if I say that people have income and you can afford, say, a gas stove, then you will move away from the chula practice. How will that sustainable change happen? Only if you have money. Or if I talk about how in winters we rely on room heaters, the poor rely on burning, say, dry leaves that are there or whatever they're burning. So if you are poor, there is again poverty induced environmental degradation. वो बस इतना कह रहे हैं, if you increase the material well-being of the people, you will tackle the problem of poverty induced environmental issues.
So I have to, ma'am. So we have to learn everything from all the definitions of sustainable development.
Unfortunately, yes, because I saw a question where they had very specifically asked for Barbier's interpretation of sustainability. So even if you don't learn, you should know uh, what exactly is it that they're talking about. If I look at Herman Daly, he's purely looking at bringing in certain reforms or certain changes. Barbier talks about income level, and these two here collectively taken as UNDP, sorry, United Nations interpretation, where they're talking about the present as well as the future generations. This this is why I have segregated them here so that it is easier for you to recall.
Yes, ma'am. If I take this Barbier's definition, for example, if we take India, suppose 50% of its population is well, rich, middle class, and the 50% is poor. So the 50% are using resources, they are consuming an amount. But if we take this exam, his definition, and if we increase the income level of the other 50 poor people, and they will also become rich. So now all uh, earlier 50% resources were using very in a high level. Now the 100% resources are using. So isn't this that bad? I mean, now all 100%, all the population of India are using a lot of resources. They're consuming a lot. So isn't this bad?
Shashank, I'll take you back to the last class where we discussed the dichotomy. आपका environmental issues दो चीजों से trigger. They basically said you're triggering it from 2 points. One, you're triggering it from how the poor are using the resources, and we spoke of the poverty-induced economic environmental threats. Next, we also spoke of environmental threats coming out of affluence and increased production. What your concern is, I think it is from moving from poverty-induced environmental challenges to affluence-induced environmental challenges. I will not deny that that can also happen. That will happen beyond a point. If you're looking at sustainability to happen, Apsif, Barbier's definition is only tackling one part of it, the poverty-induced part. At no point, even in your book, are people talking about the overconsumption that happens from the rich. Your concern has not been addressed in Barbier's definition. So if I ask a question about Barbier's definition, feel free to say that he's talking just about poverty or अपना एक solution add कर दो. But we also have to tackle affluence based environmental issues where we control the consumption that we have, as a result of which the industrial units will be forced to control the production that they have.
So I can write this point as a major demerit.
You can, but only after you give a context. तो अगर मैं
Yes,
कहती हूँ मैं आपको यही क्वेश्चन देती हूँ बार्बियर का, so maybe as an introduction here, आप पहले बताओगे कि क्या दो causes हैं, poverty and affluence वाले. Then you explain his definition and then you criticize कि आप ना सिर्फ एक ही चीज की बात कर रहे हो. Sorry, I misspelled it. But you've not spoken of affluence. You can do that. That is that is absolutely acceptable. All right. Any other thoughts that I can address? Anyone else who would want to talk about anything at all?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Anju?
Like, if we take any resources, natural resources, they are present in like quintals of kilograms and quite unmeasurable at times. So, ma'am, how do we compute that? At what level are these resources being regenerated?
Ideally, you're looking at a team of data collection. When you find now what kind of data collection, if whenever we're talking about, अगर मैं कल की क्लास पे लेके चलती, we spoke of soil erosion happening and they had cited that we've used 5.3 billion tons and we've eroded that. You have people, you have, now I don't know their technical names, whatever profession they have, but you are looking at people who are maintaining a record as to what exactly is the endowment that we have. Now जब आप endowment की बात कर रहे हो, these resources, now these organizations, the environmentalists largely, you're looking at your stock, then the next time you measure, you get an idea as to how much have you consumed, and scientifically you know the rate at which they regenerate. Looking at the terrain, looking at the geographical aspects of a place, so you get to know how much are we using, the rate or the pace at which we are using, and the pace at which the nature is replenishing that. That goes purely as their job, the environmentalists.
But ma'am, if we take this to a global level, like
Hmm.
there are so many sites and resources are being consumed at so many different locations. So how do we compute that? What is the absolute amount that is being consumed, and what is the absolute amount that is being regenerated, and how much time does that take?
Shivam, that goes as a part of the job of the Ministry of Environment and Forest Conservation that we have. So again, that exactly goes, that is their own job. So you have a team that is out there keeping a track of the resources that we have. You will never know the exact amount. See, that cannot happen. You can, you also have resources that you've not really discovered yet. तो आप कभी तो ऐसे बोल ही नहीं सकते कि इंडिया में आज इतने resources हैं. There are untapped resources that we've not reached yet. There are resources we've not discovered yet, and there are resources that we're overusing as well. So you will have estimated figures given by your your Ministry of Environment and Forest. Goes as their sole job to ensure कि कितना हमारे पास है, हम कैसे यूज कर रहे हैं, कैसे कंजर्व करना है, कैसे प्रिजर्व करना है. That is why we have different segments in your democracy. Goes as their
Got it,
job.
ma'am. Got it.
Ideally, all of it, again, just to repeat, and Raghav has also sent it, goes as an estimate. You will never have absolute amounts. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Moving forth, last topic of the lesson is about strategies of sustainability. I'll quickly go through these because these are largely known. If there's any that you think is new for you, we'll take a minute and we'll discuss. First, it talks about use of non-conventional sources of energy. So when we talk about conventional sources, you basically, if I say thermal power plants, not exactly a good idea because you're emitting greenhouse gases by using it. तो पहले आपकी energy generation thermal हो रही थी, though that is still deeply relied on today, but that's not really a sustainable practice because we are contributing to global warming. When we're moving away from your conventional sources to unconventional sources such as wind and solar, though they are though they have a lot of potential, however, you still, why exactly are we not 100% using this? Because we're still lagging behind in the technological advances for these sources. Had we had a technology for wind energy and solar energy, we could have used these as greener sources and we could have done away with thermal and hydro altogether. Hydro also poses a challenge. Though we are just using the natural resource, we're not harming the water. What challenge are we posing there? We're basically looking at messing with the ecosystem. So अगर आप वहाँ पे you put in a dam or you put in a turbine, you are looking at rehabilitation of certain organisms. You are destroying an ecosystem within itself. You may have to have deforestation for certain setup. So up for your setup and for your functioning, you are playing around with the ecosystem of the area, which is not appreciated. Next, we have LPG and gobar gas in rural areas. LPG is liquefied petroleum gas. I hope we know that. So we are looking for a shift from biofuels to LPG for these people of the rural areas. Next, gobar gas plants are basically where you're looking at how the cattle dung can be used for sustainable matters. So अगर आप गोबर गैस यूज करते हो, you are basically using the dung. You in your plant, you're feeding that. You get the gases which can be used, and whatever happens to be the remainder that is there for your input can be used as a fertilizer. So that improves the soil quality that we have. Again, another organic way which has not really been explored but with a lot of potential. CNG in urban areas, this is, I don't know if you people have witnessed it by yourself, but all right, have you seen those autos? Earlier they were just yellow and black autos. आज के autos में yellow होता है और green होता है and maybe black. Earlier they were just yellow and black autos. Have you ever seen those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, but one disadvantage of CNG is that it emits carbon dioxide gas, which is again a greenhouse gas.
All your fuels do that. The only advantage that you look at is that it is less polluting as compared to the others. If you're talking about diesel, for instance, if you're talking about petrol, you're looking at more harm coming in from them as compared to CNG. There's no denying that CNG also pollutes. That is surely there. You're now just looking at comparison coming in. Even for I think there was this law that was brought in last year or last to last year that diesel vehicles in Delhi that have crossed 10 years of their existence can't be used anymore. Did you hear about something like
15
this?
years.
Yes, ma'am.
Limit is 15 years, I guess.
All right, I think it
Madam,
was
I guess it is both for petrol and diesel.
I'll verify because I know that a friend of mine had to sell off his car because it was an 11-year-old car and something happened. For petrol, not, I have not read anything of that sort. Maybe I'll have to read about it. But then again, intention being for cleaner air, where you're looking at less harm coming from the vehicles. Now, harm comes from all three. CNG से भी है, petrol से भी है, diesel से भी है. But you will have to tackle three sources differently because of the contribution that they have to your air pollution. Delhi happens to be a classic example for shift happening to CNG. Personally also witnessed it. ऐसे autos ने अपने colors change करे थे. At that time when they were changing colors, that was to hint people that this auto is using CNG. And also the prices for them fell down drastically. Alright,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
must have been 15. Alright,
Those are 15 years.
okay, thank you. Fine. Moving on, we are looking at photovoltaic cells. This is basically tapping your solar energy. So if you look at generating electricity out of solar energy, given the place where India is located, so we do have good endowment of the sunlight that we have. If you tap that, you can easily convert that, and we will have less dependence on conventional sources. Which technology are we relying on? We're relying on photovoltaic cells. Next, we have mini hydel plants. Mini hydel plants are basically they're not as huge as a normal hydroelectric plant. You simply have replicated it in a small scale. कहाँ पे generally आप ये करते हो? आप उन terrains में करते हो where you cannot invest or where you cannot play around with the nature as much. So if you look at the streams that are there in the mountainous regions, आप वहाँ पे एक छोटा plant कर देते हो. इतना इसका contribution नहीं होता है, but the only contribution that can happen is that they can at least meet the needs of their local people. इतना ये generate कर सकता है. Again, small little steps contributing towards sustainability. Traditional knowledge and practices basically claims that we were anyway highly traditional in our approach. When I say highly traditional, that is we're relying less on westernized ways. Now they're saying it is time for us to go back to our traditional practices, and they've given an example of healthcare. Healthcare में ऐसे बोल रहे हैं that we were initially dependent on our natural herbs for treating the people before we went the Western way. Now, for organic methods, we're again going back. So, if you look at certain creams that we claim to be our organic, we talk about organic product for cosmetics. We're talking about organic fruits and vegetables. Again, basically going back to the traditional way and not relying just on the Western methods.
Using rainwater harvesting.
If that is done, then that is even better. Next, we're looking at biocomposting and biopest controls. Anyone who can explain these are quite known. ये पढ़ो आप. I'll just have some water. Someone to explain this to me, please. Anyone who can explain?
Ma'am, may I?
हाँ जी.
Ma'am, biocomposting basically talks about how cow dung and other natural manures are being used again after the chemical fertilizer shift which happened in during the green revolutions. So at the present scenario, people are coming back to the practice of using cow dung and other natural manures to regenerate their fields.
Taken. Biocomposting is again a way to reuse your natural waste. Once you're reusing your natural waste, you can now rely on that to improve the quality of the soil rather than relying on your fertilizers and pesticides that have been harming the environment and have also harmed the food that we're eating. So there were cases of diseases like cancer increasing after your green revolution came up. And though we cannot really join it back just to green revolution, but with intake of all those chemicals, the way people were being treated, they had certain issues when we started consuming all that. Similarly, I can also link it with biopest control. Again, problems arising when you're looking at green revolution. I'm sure we're aware about how this posed a challenge for our environment. You're looking at degradation of soil, you're looking at water contamination happening because the same water that if whenever it rains, the same water joins your water bodies. तो आप जो chemical आप soil में डाल चुके हो, that also goes to this water bodies. You're looking at harm to your marine life. You're looking at harm to us because we're also consuming the same. Looking at biopest control instead of using pesticides, you're looking at other ways to control pests. Skipping the introduction, यहाँ पे they've given certain examples. One, they're talking about how we can use the neem tree, since the neem tree has properties of acting as a pest control. तो आप नीम से pesticide बनाते हो instead of using any other chemically made pesticide. Next, we can also use animals to shoo away animals. So if you look at certain birds that can eat pests, you're looking at snakes that are there that can eat rats. You can have those. I'm just forgetting. I can't recall what they're called. Something just forgotten. So sorry. But you're simply looking at how you can use natural sources so that you tackle the problem of your pest attack happening. Again, relying on the food cycle here, the food chain that we have instead of chemically made for pesticides. All right, for your strategies, I can either ask you people to enlist certain strategies or I can give you a strategy and I can ask you to explain that. With that, we're done with this lesson. I have posted all the 3 documents that I used for this on GC. For now, I have shared your attendance question. Please mark your attendance. On Monday, I'll simply post a small test. Please take that. I'll use that for marking your attendance on Monday. We meet after your exams then. That is it. You may go.
Mom, I actually find it funny. Every year in one subject or another, we are studying about environmental degradation and how we have to save environment. Uh, if we are studying it, then the generations which are working today must also have studied it. But I actually doubt how much effect is that actually having on our people.
Shivam, that same thing bothers me as well. The only thing that bothers me even further is unless collectively we are all on the same page, nothing can happen. At one point, if your government takes out a rule of reforestation and you are not, as a country, you are not prioritizing environment, then the private entities will also not prioritize. If you make something your concern as the government, only then will the private sector also take it. It's like walking the talk. So you're saying one thing, but you're doing another thing. That's not a good indication. My concern rises from how our government is also taking it casually and how they have been taking it casually, because of which the rest of the population also takes it casually. So, what really falls upon us is to do certain things all by ourselves. So, maybe what जो छोटे मोटे चीजें हम कर सकते हैं, but macro level things that they are talking about, that remains an issue for us, because people who can control those are not doing anything about it.
That's true, ma'am. Sad reality. Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Good day.
To you to it.
Ma'am, can you